The first time my mother changed the locks on my own house, she didn't even tell me. I found out on a Friday afternoon. I had just finished work and pulled into my driveway in Cedar Ridge, a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Charlotte, North Carolina. I was carrying 2 grocery bags when I noticed something strange. The keypad on my front door wasn't accepting my code. I tried again. Nothing. Then I noticed the small white sticker beside the door. Property inspection, HOA compliance. I stared at it. My house, my driveway, my front door. And somehow, my mother had arranged an HOA inspection without telling me. I called her. She answered on the second ring. "Hi, honey." "Mom, why can't I get into my house?" There was a pause. Then she calmly said, "Because you weren't supposed to be there today." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. That was the beginning of 11 months of the strangest battle my family had ever experienced. And by the time the annual HOA meeting arrived, my mother believed she had everyone in that neighborhood under her control. She didn't know I had been keeping records. And she certainly didn't know what I was going to put on that projector. My name is Daniel. I was 34 years old when this started. I worked as a project manager for a construction company in Charlotte. I wasn't rich, but I had a stable job, a decent savings account, and a small 3-bedroom house in Cedar Ridge. The house had belonged to my father. After he passed away, my mother moved into a condominium about 20 minutes away. My dad had always told me the house should stay in the family. "Take care of it," he used to say. A house isn't just walls. It's where people remember who they were. So I did. I replaced the roof, fixed the plumbing, repainted the kitchen, built a small wooden deck in the backyard. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. Or at least I thought it was. My mother had always been controlling. She called it being responsible. I called it something else. But after my father died, I tried to be patient with her. She was grieving. So when she started visiting my house every Friday, I didn't immediately complain. At first, it seemed harmless. She would show up around 4 p.m. Sometimes she'd bring groceries. Sometimes she'd clean. Sometimes she'd reorganize my kitchen cabinets. I would come home and discover that my coffee mugs had moved. My tools had been rearranged. My mail had been stacked differently. I asked her about it. "Mom, you don't have to keep coming over." She smiled. "I'm helping you." "You're helping me by moving my stuff?" "You're too busy to notice these things." I laughed. I thought she was just being mom. I didn't realize Friday wasn't going to be a visit. It was going to become a system. By the 3rd month, my mother had created a routine. Every Friday, same time, same behavior. She inspected the house, checked the yard, looked through the garage, opened cabinets, checked smoke detectors, looked at the thermostat, and then she'd leave me a list. Things to fix, things to clean, things to change. At first I ignored it. Then I noticed something else. The HOA started sending me violation notices. The first one said my trash cans had been visible from the street for too long. The second said my grass was inconsistent with neighborhood standards. The third complained about a flower pot on my front porch. I called the HOA office. The woman on the phone sounded uncomfortable. "Mr. Carter, your mother has been very involved with the compliance committee." "My mother?" "Yes." I frowned. "She doesn't own my house." The woman paused. "I understand." That answer bothered me. So I asked, "Why is she involved with my property?" Another pause. "She's a board member." I had known my mother had joined the HOA board. What I hadn't realized was how much authority she had gained. She was now chair of the Architectural and Compliance Committee. And she had decided my house was going to be her project. One Friday, I came home early. My mother was in my backyard. She was standing beside my shed with a clipboard. "What are you doing?" She turned. "Checking the drainage." "Why?" "Because the HOA received a complaint." "From who?" She looked at me. "That doesn't matter." "It matters to me." She sighed. "Daniel, you're getting defensive. This is my house, and I'm trying to protect it." "No, you're controlling it." Her expression changed. For the first time, I saw anger. "You have no idea how irresponsible you're becoming." I stared at her. "Excuse me." Your father would be disappointed. That sentence hit me harder than anything else. I stepped closer. Don't use Dad against me. I'm not. You just did. She picked up her clipboard. You'll thank me someday. Then she walked away. I watched her leave. And something inside me finally changed. I stopped treating her behavior like an annoying habit. I started treating it like a problem. That weekend, I opened every HOA email I'd ever received. I created a folder on my computer. Cedar Ridge HOA. Then I started documenting everything. Dates, emails, violation notices, photos, letters, phone calls. I discovered something disturbing. Almost every violation had been issued on a Friday, and almost every inspection had been requested by my mother. But there was more. Several notices referred to board-approved corrective action. I had never received a hearing notice. I had never been given an opportunity to appeal. I contacted the management company. They sent me copies of the records. That's when I found the first serious inconsistency. A violation had been recorded against my house on March 14th. The report claimed front lawn visibly neglected during inspection. But March 14th had been a Saturday, and I had photographs from that day. My lawn had been freshly cut. I had even taken the picture because I was preparing for a backyard barbecue. Someone had lied, and I had proof. The situation continued. Friday after Friday, my mother showed up. The HOA sent notices. I responded. She escalated. I documented. By month 6, the entire neighborhood knew there was tension. One neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, quietly approached me at the mailbox. Your mom did the same thing to us. I looked at her. What? She lowered her voice. She tried to make us replace our fence. Why? She said it wasn't compliant. Was it? No. She looked around. 3 months later, she apologized. Why? Because I threatened to request an independent inspection. I started asking questions, and I discovered that I wasn't the only one. Another homeowner had received fines for a mailbox. Another had been pressured to remove solar lights. Someone else had been warned about their driveway. The pattern was always the same. Friday inspection, violation, pressure, threat of fines. And my mother was involved. Then I found something I hadn't expected. One evening, I was going through an HOA disclosure package that had been emailed to homeowners. Buried inside was a spreadsheet. It listed properties, violation dates, compliance status, and notes. I searched for my address. There it was. Beside my name was a note. Owner is resistant. Continue Friday inspections. Escalate if necessary. I stared at the screen. Continue Friday inspections. That wasn't a casual visit. It was a campaign. Then I saw another note. Family matter. Do not discuss with homeowner directly. My stomach tightened. My own mother had been using an HOA system to control my property, and someone else knew about it. I printed everything. Then I made backups. 3 copies. Cloud storage. External drive. And 1 printed binder. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to know how far this went. 2 months later, the HOA sent me a bill. $8,400 in accumulated fines and legal fees. I almost laughed. Then I realized they were serious. I called the management company. I want an itemized statement. They sent it. Most of the charges were connected to violations my mother had initiated. One fee particularly caught my attention. Administrative inspection fee, $650. I had never requested an inspection. So I asked, who authorized this? The management company said. The compliance committee. Who signed it? They didn't answer immediately. Then, your mother. I closed my eyes. That night I called her. Mom, we need to talk. I agree. About the HOA. I don't want to discuss business with you. It's not business when you're charging me thousands of dollars. You violated the rules. No, you changed the rules around me. Silence. Then she said, you'll understand when you're older. I laughed. I'm 34. You still have a lot to learn. Maybe. I looked at the binder sitting beside me. But I learned something this year. What? People leave records. She hung up. The annual HOA meeting was scheduled for the first Thursday in December. Every homeowner could attend. Every board member had to present a report, and the election for 2 board positions would take place. My mother was running again. She expected to win easily. She had spent months telling people she was protecting property values. She even sent a neighborhood email. Strong leadership keeps Cedar Ridge safe, beautiful, and financially responsible. I read it twice. Then I opened my binder. I knew exactly what I had to do, but I was terrified. This wasn't just about an HOA anymore. It was my mother, my family, my childhood, my father's memory. If I exposed her publicly, there would be no going back. My sister called me the night before the meeting. "Daniel, Mom says you're trying to destroy her." I said nothing. "Is that true?" "No." "Then what are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth." She sighed. "Can't you just let this go?" I looked at the binder. "Would you let it go if it happened to you?" She didn't answer. The community center was packed. Almost 70 homeowners showed up. My mother sat at the front table. She wore a navy blazer. Her paperwork was perfectly organized. She looked confident, almost proud. The meeting began. Financial report, maintenance report, landscaping report. Then the HOA president announced, "Next, we'll hear from the Architectural and Compliance Committee." My mother stood. She spoke for nearly 15 minutes. She talked about property values, community standards, responsible homeowners. Then she said, "Over the past year, our committee has worked tirelessly to ensure compliance." People nodded. Then she looked directly at me. I knew what she was doing. She was establishing her story before I could tell mine. When she finished, everyone applauded politely. The president asked, "Any homeowner comments?" I stood. My mother's smile disappeared. I walked to the microphone. "My name is Daniel Carter, and I'm here to discuss HOA enforcement." My mother immediately raised her hand. "I object." The president looked confused. "On what grounds?" "This is a personal family matter." I looked at her. "No." Then I turned toward the homeowners. "It's an HOA matter." I placed the binder on the table. "I have 11 months of inspection records." The room became quiet. "I have violation notices." I placed another stack down. Emails. Another stack. Financial statements. Then I connected my laptop to the projector. The first slide appeared. Friday inspections, 11-month timeline. The room went silent. I showed every Friday. Inspection. Notice. Fine. Response. Another inspection. The president leaned forward. "Where did you get these?" "Official HOA records." My mother stood. "These records are being misrepresented." I clicked to the next slide. It showed a copy of the HOA spreadsheet. Then I highlighted one sentence. "Continue Friday inspections. Escalate if necessary." Someone in the audience whispered, "That's unbelievable." My mother shook her head. "That was an internal compliance note." I answered, "Written about my house." I showed the financial records. "These are the charges against my property." I highlighted the total. $8,400. Several homeowners gasped. Then I showed the inspection fees. Every inspection was authorized by the compliance committee. I clicked. My mother's signature appeared. She looked at the president. "This is being taken out of context." The president stared at the document. "Did you authorize these fees?" My mother didn't answer. He asked again. "Yes or no?" She finally said, "Yes." Someone shouted. "Why?" My mother looked around. "Because he refused to comply." I held up photographs. "With what?" I showed the lawn, the fence, the flower pot, the driveway, all compliant. Then I showed the inspection dates. Several inspections had occurred when I wasn't even home, and one had occurred while I was out of state. A neighbor raised her hand. I remember that. Everyone turned. She continued. Daniel was visiting his sister in Florida that week. My mother became silent. Then I showed the final document. It wasn't an HOA form. It was a letter, written by my mother, to the HOA president. The subject line read, "My son's property." The letter said she believed I was emotionally unstable and unable to properly manage the home. She had asked the board to consider placing additional oversight on my property. The president looked stunned. "Why did you write this?" My mother finally broke. "Because he wouldn't listen to me." Her voice echoed across the room. "I was trying to protect him," I said quietly. "From what?" She looked at me. "From losing everything." I didn't understand. Then she said, "Your father almost lost that house." The room became silent. She continued, "Before he died, he had financial problems. I knew Dad had struggled, but I didn't know the full story." My mother explained that years earlier, my father had nearly lost the house because of debt. She had spent months negotiating with creditors. She believed the house represented everything she had sacrificed for. After Dad died, she became terrified I would make the same mistakes. "So you controlled me?" I asked. She started crying. I was scared. I looked at her. "For 11 months? The HOA president asked for a private recess. The board members went into another room. The homeowners started talking among themselves. Then Mrs. Thompson came to me. "Daniel." I looked at her. "Thank you." "For what?" "For standing up." One by one, homeowners started sharing their experiences. The board discovered that my mother had pressured multiple homeowners without following proper procedures. The compliance committee had been operating without sufficient oversight. Several fines were invalid. The president announced that an independent review would be conducted. My mother resigned from the compliance committee that night, and the board voted to suspend all disputed fines pending review. My $8,400 balance disappeared. But that wasn't the part that mattered most. My mother had lost the position she had used to control everyone. I didn't speak to my mother for 3 weeks. Then one Sunday afternoon, she came to my house. She stood on the porch. For once, she didn't have a clipboard. She didn't have paperwork. She didn't have an HOA notice. Just herself. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. We sat in the kitchen. The same kitchen where she had rearranged my cabinets dozens of times. She looked around. I shouldn't have done it. I didn't answer. I thought if I controlled everything, nothing bad could happen. "Mom." She looked at me. "You can't protect someone by taking away their freedom." Tears filled her eyes. "I know." Then she pulled something from her purse. A small envelope. Inside was an old photograph. My father and me. I was probably 8 years old. Dad was standing behind me with his hands on my shoulders. On the back he had written, "Let him make his own mistakes. That's how he'll learn." I stared at it. My mother whispered, "Your father told me that." I looked up. "Then why didn't you listen?" She smiled sadly. "Because I was scared." 6 months later, Cedar Ridge had a new HOA board. They created a new compliance policy. No single board member could authorize repeated inspections of the same property. All violations required documented evidence. Homeowners had appeal rights. And every enforcement action had to be reviewed by at least 2 board members. The system was finally fair. My mother never ran for the board again. Our relationship wasn't magically perfect. It took time. A lot of time. But she started respecting boundaries. She stopped showing up every Friday. She stopped checking my yard. She stopped rearranging my kitchen. And eventually, Friday became just another day. One afternoon, I was sitting on my new deck when my mother called. "Are you home?" "Yes." "Can I come over?" I smiled. "Sure." She paused. "Should I bring anything?" I looked at the backyard. No clipboard. She laughed. "Deal." Looking back, the strangest part wasn't that my mother controlled my house. It wasn't that she used the HOA. It wasn't even the $8,400 in fines. It was how easily fear had convinced her that control was the same thing as love. She thought protecting me meant making every decision for me. She thought preventing mistakes meant preventing freedom. And for 11 months, I let myself believe I had to choose between being her son and standing up for myself. I didn't. Sometimes loving someone means saying, "You can't do this to me." Sometimes family needs boundaries more than forgiveness. And sometimes the person hurting you isn't trying to destroy you. Sometimes they're simply too afraid to let go. But that doesn't make the damage disappear. My mother lost the HOA position that year. I lost 11 months of peace. But eventually, we gained something neither of us had before. A relationship where she was my mother. And I was her son, not her project. Not her property. Not someone she needed to control. Just her son. And for the first time in years, when Friday came around, I didn't wonder what my mother was going to inspect. I simply opened my front door and lived my life.